Local presentation of Read About It is made possible in part by a grant from Cox Communications of Oklahoma City, proud sponsor of this effort to promote reading, education, and literacy in our community.
Mystery in Oklahoma will be the topic on Read About It tonight. Hi, I'm BJ Williams. With me is Marcia Preston to talk about her new book, Perhaps She'll Die. We also have Susie Beasley, Ursula Ward, and Doug Benton. Coming up, Marcia Preston.
The following public service program is brought to you by the Metropolitan Library System. And now, Read About It, with your host, BJ Williams.
Marcia Preston is an Oklahoman who has a day job publishing a magazine called Byline, which if you want to be a writer or are a writer, you should be subscribing to. But she's also done a little something on the side, which is write a book. And that book is Perhaps She'll Die, and it is what, Marcia, you're calling it a mystery suspense novel, aren't you?
Yes, under the big umbrella of mystery writing, there are a lot of little sub-genres, and suspense is one of those. So this book is classified suspense.
Now, you said it in Oklahoma, didn't you?
Absolutely. My home state, I've lived here all my life. And once someone said to me, you know, Oklahoma's not a very interesting setting for a book. You ought to move it someplace more glamorous, like even Dallas or New York or someplace. And I just laughed. I mean, he just didn't get the point. Some of the small town things that happen here and the texture of the culture here, there's no better place for a mystery than Oklahoma.
Right. Well, it sounds like someone who doesn't know any Oklahoma history whatsoever.
It probably was. Somebody from New York.
No doubt. Probably doesn't even know New York history, right? Well, this is set actually in a small town. Now, is this modeled a little bit about the small town you grew up in?
Well, I suppose you could say some of it is. The people certainly aren't. The people where I grew up were not near as malevolent as the ones in the book, and we didn't find many dead bodies around. But I grew up in a small town in Piedmont on a wheat farm in central Oklahoma, and the little store that's in the book and some of the other settings, you know, the texture, the wheat harvest and things like that are definitely part of my childhood.
Well, I thought you got the heat down rather well. You know, and I was, oh gosh, it's hot outside and I'm having to read about how hot it is.
I guess this is a better wintertime read.
Right. Now, it's a small town. Your heroine actually has just come back to town, and because she's got some problems she wants resolved.
Yes, Chantaline is the name of my main character. She has some gypsy heritage, which is where the weird name came from. She is a young woman now come home to her small town of Tetumka, Oklahoma, because she had witnessed a violent incident in her childhood that has caused her to lose big chunks of her memory, and also leave her with a lot of confusion and anger about her father's death and her mother's disappearance. And she realizes that to save her own sanity and make anything out of her life, she's going to have to solve this mystery, to recover those memories and find out what really happened to her parents. So she comes home to a town that is not glad to see her and begins to stir up trouble.
And in a big way, too, doesn't she? Because it's almost immediately that there's another body in town.
Yes, as soon as she tells the town people that she's there to find out the truth, and she knows the people that killed her father, even though she doesn't really know, she's bluffing, then that sets off a chain of events that thrusts her into a mystery that becomes pretty dangerous for her.
Mm-hmm. Now, she meets someone along the way, and I hate to say this, but you know, in romance writing, they're always saying your hero and heroine have to meet cute. And I'm thinking, these people did not meet cute.
No, well, it's not a romance novel,
right.
But there is a little interest there. Yes, Drew Sander, who becomes her sort of partner throughout the book, form this uneasy alliance to uncover the truth. Drew is also a hometown boy, come back from New York where he was a tax attorney, left a job he didn't like and a crumbling marriage, and has come back home to renovate the family farmhouse, hoping to sell it. that's at least his surface reason. Actually, he's wanting some time away, some time to kind of get his mind together, decide what he's going to do from here on. And he walks in right into the middle of the first murder that happens on camera in the book.
Right.
And then has to help Shanaline to find out some facts about his own family.
Yeah. Well, in fact, she's running out of the building when he walks in, and she's just saying, there's a murder, and he walks on in, yep, there sure is.
Yes, and Drew doesn't like that. He's not the kind of guy that likes a bloody scene. So,
in fact, as I recall, he wanted to be a doctor, but
couldn't stand the blood.
Right. Well, and I appreciated the atmosphere. This is a very small town, and it takes him quite a while, actually, even to reach the sheriff's department or the police department in another town.
That's right. There's no local law, only one of the local citizens who sort of functions as a part-time deputy in case they have to have some law represented there. But the only law is the county sheriff's office, which is in the next town about 20 miles away. And that's not uncommon in very small towns in Oklahoma.
Well, where did you get the idea, since, as you said, you didn't encounter a lot of dead bodies when you were growing up? Where do you get the idea for your plot?
You know, I didn't even think about this when I was actually writing the book, but later on it occurred to me that there are two things that happened to me as a child on the farm that probably started the idea for this, and one of them was I overheard a conversation among the grown-ups that I probably wasn't supposed to be hearing. They were talking about a man who had hanged himself in an abandoned barn. And even then, I wondered, well, what if he didn't hang himself? What if somebody else did it? Just a childish imagination. But that idea somehow stuck with me. And then, of course, the beginning of this book is that Shanaline's father is actually hanged in the barn. And they tell her it's suicide, but in fact it was not.
Yeah. Well, and in fact, there's quite a story about the cover of the book, which is very eye-catching.
I am really pleased with the cover of the book, and I'm especially pleased because my husband took the photos that the publisher used in this photo montage for the cover. It came about in kind of a strange way. We had no idea they were going to use his photos, but they had sent us a mock-up cover with an old photo on the front, which was pretty neat, except that it looked like New England in the 1930s, not Oklahoma in the 1990s or 80s. And so we said, would you like us to send you some pictures of Oklahoma barns? And the editor said, sure. So my husband and I went out one afternoon with his camera, and he happened to have a friend who knew how to tie a hangman's noose. Now this is a lost skill.
Yes.
But we have this very handy friend, Jeff Young, who knows how to tie a hangman's noose, so we took the rope with us, and we spent this fun afternoon at this wonderful old barn hanging this noose, dangling it from the window or the door, these different places, and taking these pictures, and just for fun, and then sent this whole set of snapshots off to my editor in Philadelphia. And sure enough, when the next mock-up of the cover came back, my husband's photos were on the cover, and we had no idea they were even going to use them. But Paul got a photo credit. So
great. Well, see, a new career is opening up for him as well.
Well, he's done quite a little photography. We do some freelance work together. I write articles, and he takes the pictures. So yes, he's pretty good at it.
Yeah. Well, obviously so, because this is, as I said, very eye-catching. You look at it, and I remember looking at Perhaps She'll Die, and then here's this hangman's noose, and so I was really wondering what was going on.
I think it's a cover that is eye-catching and will help sell books, and of course that's what every author hopes for, is a cover that people will look at and pick up the book.
Right.
So I felt really, really lucky.
Well, I think once they pick it up and open it up and start reading, then they're going to have to walk out with it.
Oh, good. I hope so. Thanks.
Because I kept wondering, oh dear, she's really in trouble. So, well, I want to thank you very much for being with us, and
it's my pleasure.
Enjoyed it. We've had with us today Marcia Preston telling us about her book, Perhaps You'll Die, which you can find at your library and your favorite bookstore. Coming up next, I talked with Susie Beasley a couple of weeks ago about a book that she enjoyed, and I think you will too. Susie, what did you bring for us this time?
Well, this is a book titled White Flame by James Grady, and he's the author of 6 Days of the Condor that came out during the 70s, and they made a movie out of it. This was published earlier, and it's just been reissued because they're making a movie about White Flame. And it is I guess you would say it is a suspense, fast-paced thriller. That's the best way I can put it. The lead character happens to be an ex-con and a former Black Panther.
Oh, good.
And his name is Farron Sears. And Farron has turned over a new leaf. And he is now a billionaire. Of course, the stock market helped that. And he's a philanthropist. So he is one of these people that has redeemed himself and is now a productive member of society. Well, he decides to run for president. Now, this is very, very unusual because there have been several black people to run for president, black men, but this one comes very close to actually winning, so he's marked for assassination.
Oh dear, another right-wing conspiracy, right?
In a way, because the assassins are a group of individuals from Idaho. So you have all these other things that are spinning out here. And it comes very clear to everyone that he is marked for assassin. So they set up a task force, a group, to actually protect Mr. Sears, and they have a law enforcement officer from Washington, D.C., from the D.C. police. They also have a staunch FBI person who is like the spawn of J. Edgar. And then they have a young, naive FBI agent that really is similar to someone from the X-Files, like, oh, gee whiz, that door is locked. Well, yes, the window's broken. Let me try it. Type thing. So you have these 3 people, the experienced FBI person, the D.C. Cop, and this inexperienced FBI agent, special agent that's going to protect Sears against this Idaho right-wing conspiracy. So you have all these elements, and what comes to mind is a movie that will be fast-paced, but the book, I believe, brings out the characters more. I believe they made a selection on who's going to play the character of Sears. I won't divulge that right now, so people have to wait till the credits roll. But this is an excellent book for people who enjoyed the book 6 Days of the Condor. However, they may be a little disappointed, but I wasn't, because I think that James Grady did a really good job in presenting his characters and putting everybody together and leaving an element of surprise. He doesn't tell you everything, and you're still trying to figure things out up to the last chapter.
Okay. So this is another hammock read. Give us the title again.
The title is White Flame, and it's by James Grady, and it's brand new.
Thanks, Susie. And you can find this at your library and your favorite bookstore. I have a couple of interesting books for you. The first one that I would like to talk to you about is a brand new book by C.J. Sherry. It is called Hammerfall, and it is actually the beginning of a new extended series of books. Not content with the numerous universes that she has already created, CJ has decided to create another universe, and in this one people have been playing in the pool without getting permission, the gene pool to be exact. We start this book with a collection of mad men and women being herded across a desert. All they know is that they hear voices which keep calling them to go some way, and for many years in the past, people with this particular kind of madness have been killed, but now the ruler of the world has decided that she wants all of these people collected and gathered up and brought to her ruling city. One of the mad people that we were particularly interested in is a man named Merrick. He and his father tried for a number of years to actually destroy the ruler of the world and become, I guess, rulers in her place. They were not actually successful. They really didn't have a big enough army and were not as well organized as they might have been. So Merrick gets turned over to the ruler and is taken to her city, where instead of executing him as he expected, he is told that she has a mission for him. She's going to give him a caravan and people to run it, and all of the mad people as well that have been gathered up, and they are to go where their voices have been calling them. The ruler wants to know what is going on and who is doing it. So he treks across the desert. This is a desert world full of untold dangers. It sounds even worse than the empty quarter in Saudi Arabia, actually. When they get to where the voices have been calling them, they find a couple of people who, and a paradise. There is water, big rivers, rain falls, there's green grass, so on and so forth. But the people he encounters there tell him that extreme danger is coming, that the ruler has gotten into trouble on another planet and has come here for refuge, and she's been found out, and that terrible things are going to happen to all of the people unless they can be brought back to this paradise. And while he is staying in the paradise, earthquakes start happening, there are meteors flying, and so on and so forth. Sounds pretty bad. He does manage to get back to the city. I'm going to let you read Hammerfall to find out what happens there, and obviously C.J. Sherry has lots of other things planned for this particular universe and people who dabble in nanotechnology and the gene pool as well. Now, this next book is perhaps of interest to people who watched the Learning Channel series on the Spanish conquista of Latin and South America, but it also encompasses a number of other empires as well. The book is Peoples and Empires, A Short History of European Migration, Exploration, and Conquest from Greece to the Present. It's by Anthony Pagden. It is part of a series of the North American Library, but it really takes the idea of empire. What is an empire? What do Europeans mean when they talk about empires? A brief history of Alexander's conquest, a very strong look at the Roman Empire, which has really set the idea of European law and empire from its beginnings. Takes a look at the Spanish conquest, the British and Dutch efforts to create empires of trade in the 18th and 19th century, as well as what I found the most interesting chapter, which was the last one, which is the legacy of empire. What happens and what has happened when empires disintegrate? What happens to the people who have been collected willy-nilly by an army stronger than themselves? Very interesting book. I think you would enjoy Peoples and Empire by Anthony Pagden. Coming up next is Kids Corner, and I talked with Rosemary Zarsky a couple of weeks ago about a book for young adults, and I think you'll find it quite interesting. Rosemary, what have you brought for us tonight?
I've brought The Savage Damsel and the Dwarf by Gerald Morse.
Now this sounds very interesting and obviously not a contemporary story.
No, it takes place back in medieval England when Arthur was the king of Camelot.
So it's a little bit of a fantasy.
Very much so, yes. We have a dwarf, which of course is a figure that's usually unique to fantasies. Only it's not quite what you think in the dwarf. I mean, he can change into a human being if the conditions are right.
But you've got, actually to start off, you've got two beautiful sisters who have a little bit of a problem, right?
Mm-hmm. They have a knight besieging their castle. They want the castle, the knight wants the castle, he'll take the oldest sister as part of the deal.
Oh, gee, thanks.
And the younger sister's one of these feisty, no thank you ma'am. Mm-hmm. And she goes off to get a knight from Sir Arthur's court to fight this knight. And when she gets to Camelot, guided by the dwarf, all the knights said, oh, you got to be kidding. We've been there, done that, don't want to go back. So the only one she can get is this kitchen lad. But this kitchen lad, when they come up against a knight that wants to fight, has amazingly knightly powers. And it turns out that he's actually Sir Gareth, who has sworn never to be called Sir Gareth again until he has redeemed Sir Lancelot's honor in the tournament, if you will. All of the elements of the medieval feudaldom are in this book, and it's really funny, humorous, romantic, adventuresome, a little bit of everything for everybody.
It sounds like it's, even though it's medieval, it's a modern-day fairy tale, perhaps?
Pretty much so, yes.
Because I know most of the medieval romances didn't have a feisty, know-it-all younger sister.
No, I'm sure that they existed, but they didn't write about them, that's for sure.
And now, is this a coming-of-age book?
Very much so, because the younger sister, it's the story of the younger sister primarily, and she learns she is going to marry soon, because back then they married very early, and she comes to learn how to choose wisely and how to choose your friends and how to control your tongue.
Okay, quickly, the title and author again.
The Savage Damsel and the Dwarf by Gerald Morris.
Thanks, Rosemary, and remember, you can find this book at your library and your bookstore. It's time now for the New York Times bestseller list. We'll start out with adult hardback fiction. Number 10 on that list is Between Lovers by Eric Jerome Dickey, A Painted House by John Grisham, A Traitor to Memory by Elizabeth George, Back When We Were Grown-Ups by Ann Tyler, Cane River by Lolita Tademi, Hollywood Wives, The New Generation by Jackie Collins, The Jury by Steve Martini, 7 Up by Janet Ivanovich, P is for Peril by Sue Grafton is number 2, and number 1 is Danielle Steele's Leap of Faith. On the hardback nonfiction list, number 10 is Tuesdays with Morrie by Mitch Albom, The Truth Is by Melissa Etheridge with Laura Morton, When You Come to a Fork in the Road, Take It by Yogi Berra with Dave Kaplan, Seabiscuit by Laura Hillenbrand, Founding Brothers by Joseph Ellis, Napalm and Silly Putty by George Carlin, Justice by Dominic Doon, Ghost Soldiers by Hampton Sides. Number 2 is Stolen Lives by Malika Ofkir and Michelle Fitoussi, and number 1 is David McCullough's John Adams. On the children's list, number 10 is Jedi Apprentice Deceptions by Jude Watson, The Captain Underpants Extra Crunchy Book of Fun by Dav Pilkey, The Princess Diaries by Meg Cabot, Shore Thing by Judy Katchik, Quidditch Through the Ages by Kenilworthy Wisp, Holes by Louis Sekar, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them by Newt Scamander, Junie B. Jones is a Graduation Girl by Barbara Park, number 2 is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling, and number 1 is Rowling's Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Coming up next, we have Doug Benton, who is a columnist for the Oklahoma Gazette and the Metropolitan Library System, and he's got an interesting book he'd like to share with you. Doug, it looks like you've got something really juicy for us tonight.
Well, I don't know about juicy. It's romantic, to say the least. It's a book called The Art of the Pre-Raphaelites by Elizabeth Pettyjohn. And it is a very good overview of the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood and what they stood for. These were painters, by the way, for people who are scratching their heads going, what? Mid to late 19th century English school of painters that were that looked back to the paintings of Raphael and earlier for their inspiration. Although many of their paintings were actually based on poems of the 19th century and literary works. So, but it was a stylistic thing. They were a brotherhood. They called themselves the Brotherhood of Pre-Raphaelites, which included several lady painters, and many even of their models were women who were involved in the Brotherhood. It was a social group to some extent, as many Victorian painting brotherhoods were. We had industrialized by this time, and people had more money to spend on art, and so more people were going into the arts as a profession. And so there were these brotherhoods that sprang up. But I wanted to show you one of the paintings to kind of get an idea of some of the things that you can look at in this. Can we put that picture up of this painting? There it is. The painting is Mariana. It is by John Everett Millais, and it's based on a poem by Tennyson, who took the character of Mariana from Measure for Measure by Shakespeare. You get some sense of the antiquity of the piece, whether or not this woman is actually a medieval character or whether she's a modern Victorian woman who happens to be wearing costume for some reason. She's doing needlepoint, and we've lost the picture. Okay, needlepoint there, which she stopped for a moment from doing, and she's stretching, she's standing up. But if you look at the needlepoint in here, you see there are leaves there. The needlepoint she's doing is a leaf pattern, but there are actually leaves on the table as well. And you think, well, she's using those as a pattern, but perhaps she isn't, because there are also leaves all over the floor. And it could be that she has just been sitting there staring out the window for some length of time. And there's also a mouse on the floor to indicate that there's some decay here. Plus, I love the fabric of the tablecloth. You see it's got wrinkles in it. There's absolutely no reason for Millais to have painted in those wrinkles unless he wanted you to look at this picture. And if you really study it, there's a lot going on here. The pattern, the medieval pattern in the windows in her stained glass is an Annunciation scene, and it looks like the angel is really talking to Mariana rather than talking to the Virgin. So what is he telling her? There's a dark corner in this painting. You have to look very carefully to see what's back there. How does it apply to this woman who is bored, which is what Mariana is in Tennyson's poem.
So are most of the other Pre-Raphaelite paintings like this?
There's all very much to see. There's just an overwhelming amount of detail in these paintings, and it's very well done. I just picked the first painting in here by Millais because I like it so much. That's the one I wanted to talk about.
Okay. So, well, it sounds like even if you don't know anything about art, it would be a fun book to look at and see what you can find.
You will learn about late Victorian painting from this book.
Okay. Thanks, Doug. And tell us again the author and title.
It is The Art of the Pre-Raphaelites by Elizabeth Pettyjohn.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Coming up next is Ursula Ward. She has some information for those of you who may have watched 60 Minutes last night and heard something about the Tulsa race riots. We have some things in our collection that might interest you as well. Ursula, what have you brought for us today?
Well, I brought a very interesting document from the State Depository, and it is the Tulsa race riot. And it's the commission report of to study the Tulsa race riot of 1921.
Okay, now this was a study done by a commission established by the state government, right?
Yes, right. And what it is, that there have been lots of authors writing about it, but no real official document to study the consequences and to study the race riot.
And this looks like a pretty thorough thing. I noticed there were even maps pinpointing what happened the first day and what happened that night and that sort of thing.
It is I thought, very interesting document. As far as the thoroughness, I think it's well written, because to me, a document can be very dry. And this one was very interesting in the fact that it's spoken, it's written in a common language, and that everybody could read and understand.
Okay. Well, does it go into what caused the riot?
Yes, as far as they know, as far as they can tell, it is a comprehensive report about what caused it on both sides of the riot, and it gives a lot of pictures detailing the riot of the Greenwood, of the section of Greenwood in 1921.
And does it go into any efforts that were made afterwards to repair it? I know that they have there's a photograph in here that stretches across both pages showing it looks like a bomb hit that part of the town.
It does. It does tell about the consequence of it. And it's very sad because the whole town of Greenwood was destroyed, and about thousands of people were left homeless. And I think that is what's so sad, because we hear about the riots of today, like the one in Cincinnati and the one in California during the 60s, but you never hear about the one that happened before the civil rights movement in the 60s. And this happened in 1921, right in our own state. First was the worst riots since the Civil War until that time.
Okay. And the Greenwood area had been known up until that time as the Black Wall Street, hadn't
Oh
it?
yes. In fact, it was a thriving community at the time. They had their own stores, they had their own theater. It was very, very, very well done as far as a black community. There was lots of wealthy blacks as well as poor blacks there.
See you next week.